institutionalized in a care home facility. The final 10 or so years of her life were spent in nursing homes in and around Kalamazoo. She was always a model resident who was pleasant to be around. She was friendly to all staff and to all of the other residents. She never complained about her care. She was gregarious and seemed happy. I feel the world has lost something else. Now that Mom is no longer with us, I miss her too. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming, family and friends. We're honored to have you here. I just want to thank my mom. Thank you, Mom, for bringing me into the world and not stopping after 2 children. Thank you, Mom, for being such a wonderful mother, wife, grandmother, great-grandmother. Thank you, Mom, for choosing such a wonderful husband in Harry Warren, who was such a wonderful father, grandfather, husband, great-grandfather. Thank you, Mom, for raising us in such a loving household with a religious foundation and surrounding us with music and educational experiences. Thank you, Mom, for being a role model and for living your life the way you taught us to live ours. Thank you, Mom, for all the educational field trips that we've done and many interesting places we visited. We always stopped at factories along the way. And, I remember seeing little shredded wheat in the Visco factory going along on a conveyor belt. It was huge. Who else has seen that? I remember at the Purina factory, whole rail cars of grain came in, and I was impressed because the big machine picked it up, turned it on its side, set it down, and sent it on its way. And of course, who can forget the slaughterhouse at the Dugdale wheat processing facility? Thank you, Mom, for being there when we needed you over the years. And most of all, Mom, thank you for just being you.
I think we may have one more, but why don't we sing a couple of verses of Old Rugged Cross? All right? You can remain seated. 504, we'll sing verse 1 and 2.
Where the dearest and best wish so much I could leave my bed in my nursing home in Hayward, California, to be with all of you today to celebrate our mother, Helen Miller's life. I am unable to walk or to fly by air. I was always so proud of our mother and all she did in our home, in our church, and in the schools she worked in. Helen was a wonderful role model for me and for my brothers. She always kept busy. She never stopped working. When she was older, when she was still living independently, we talked by phone every night. These nightly talks, we had one main subject, God and religion. Mom knew so much and felt so strongly about the importance of everyone having a personal connection with God through prayer. A large part of our talks on the phone were prayers on the phone. Either one of us could do the praying. She did a great deal of the praying, but she loved it when I did the praying too. People in the hospital would request that Helen Miller come to their hospital room to offer prayer. She did this for people gladly. When she was in her 80s, she visited me in Oakland, California, and she wanted to visit the church I attended. I attended an all-black Baptist church in Richmond, California, where a friend of mine was the pastor. During the service, Mom stood up and told the congregation that we are all one. Then she sang a song and made up a prayer and recited it. The people there were entranced by Mom. After the service, several teenagers and their parents came up to her and asked her to pray over the teenagers and bless them. She did so readily. 1 or 2 years later, she visited me again, and she wanted to return to the Richmond church. The people there remembered her, and they asked her for another song and individual prayers. My mom was an amazing woman. I think she had a calling as a pastor later in her life. I've missed her so much, but it became difficult to continue our talks. But she told me several times when she was in her 80s, never forget that I love you. And I've never forgotten that. We all loved her back. And I would like to share 2 personal memories of my Aunt Helen and my Uncle Harry. And they are brief. My parents chose to leave Michigan on my 7th birthday to move to Colorado. And Aunt Helen heard about this and was really concerned that I was not going to have a birthday party. So the week prior, she came and picked me up in Otsego, Michigan, drove me to Kalamazoo, invited all the neighborhood kids who I did not know to celebrate my 7th birthday, just to make sure I didn't miss out. And one of my fondest memories of both Uncle Harry and Aunt Helen was when he would come home from work and he would stand at the front door in his booming voice and say, "Mrs. M, where are you?" And she would holler out where she was, and he would go immediately to her, put his arms around her, and kiss her. They were such a great example of real love. Thank you.
Let's listen to what Jesus has to say to us from the Gospel of John. Jesus said, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, and believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. I have said these things to you while I am still with you. But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything, and remind you of all that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give it to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. As I shared with the family at the cemetery when we laid the ashes down next to Harry and said our goodbyes at the cemetery because they didn't have afternoon hours for us to go after the service. We did it a little bit backwards when we got it done. My favorite prayer at the cemetery is one that goes, Eternal God, you shared with us the life of our beloved. Before she was ours, now she's yours. For all that she has given us to make us what we are, and for that of her which lives and grows in each of us, and for her life and your love that will never end, and give you thanks. And I share that you didn't have to have the Miller bloodline to know that Helen cared about you, and that she wanted to nurture you and care for you, and treat you like she would her own son or daughter. And that happened to me before I actually got to know Helen as a Miller, and part of the Miller clan that I got to know. It happened in a hospital right here in Kalamazoo, in Borges. My wife was having surgery, and so the surgeon said, oh, it'll only be about an hour, and I'll come out and let you know. And so I brought some work and was doing some computer stuff, and an hour passed, and so I kind of looked a little worried, and the second hour passed, and it was quickly approaching the third hour. And I guess my face must have showed something, but sitting across the way was a little old lady, and she kept looking over at me, and then she finally came over to me and sat down, and she just held my hand, and she said, are you worried? And I go, yeah, I guess I am. She goes, let's pray. And I read away the pastor side of me says, I'm supposed to be saying that. You know? And here's this little old lady telling me, you're supposed to pray when you're worried, And she just had a wonderful prayer for me. She says, Lord, just help this young man. I kind of like that, Consider me a young man, and help him through these troubles. And then she just asked me what was happening, and she told me that she was here, a member of her church didn't have anybody to go to the hospital with, so she tagged along. But she said, I knew God wanted me here for a reason, and that reason was you, and I was just blessed, and just after she finished praying, the surgeon came outside and apologized and said, some extra stuff popped up. Your wife's okay. Everything's going to be all right. I'm just finishing up the surgery. Don't worry. I said,